right.
Hey, there we are. Retweets going out. Retweet, retweet.
Yeah, my system's totally flaking out. I'm beach balling all over the place here. This is not going to both well. All right. Set everybody's expectations correctly. Let them know that crap is cracking. All right. So I can't do the intro music for you guys. I'll have to do that both. All right, ready to go? Everybody good?
Hang on, let me. Episode 202 going live. This episode is sponsored by. All right.
Thomas, you good? We can't hear you now, Thomas.
Nope, still can't hear you
Totally
because
dead.
you're muted.
Totally ready to go. Nothing wrong at all.
Professionals.
This is just gonna go so well. I feel it. You're listening to episode
202.
202. We are professional podcasters and PHP developers. I'm your host, Eric Van Townsend, and with me, to my virtual right or left, I don't know, John Congdon?
It's so hard to tell. We don't know where we're at.
I don't even know what's happening tonight. And to my other side, I'm sandwiched between two PHP developers, Thomas Rideout.
Hello.
So is this a
little low
PHP
there,
sandwich? Kind of weird.
Yes, John is on your left.
How is everybody doing? Having a rough start of it this afternoon. I gotta be honest with you.
Well, everyone's got brand new recording equipment and trying to get it all worked out and Joe Rogan qualityed up. And I've got mine. The only problem, it's like 5-6 pounds, and the arm that came with my $40 shipped direct from China microphone is a bit rusted and not as springy as she used to be. So unable to hook that one up today for this episode unless I had the microphone like in my chest.
Disappointing, but that's all right.
But you guys went all out. You've got the full Shure setups.
Yeah. I mean, I had to do something. Honestly, I did the math, and I think I've gone through 3 or 4 Yeti mics, and they last for a little while, and they go bad, and so I don't know.
Well,
between this and PHP Architect and a couple other things we do, John and I just decided,
that is one thing. Mine came with very like explicit care instructions. It's got this bag, and it says
you have to tuck it in every night. It tells you.
You do. It says not only do you tuck it in every night, but you put the reusable anti-moisture packet at the head of the microphone to prevent moisture from collecting on the microphone. And when it turns pink, that means it's dead, and you have to bake it for 10 minutes, and it'll turn blue again.
You want to know a life hack? You get enough of those moisture packs, you can put them in your animals' dry food bins, and it keeps their food from getting moist as well. You just have to make sure you don't feed it to your animals.
I bought 2 bags of them. They're like $1 for 50 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are surprisingly cheap. Common
So-
in 3D printing too. You need to keep your filament dry.
Ah.
So this episode is sponsored by my good friends Linda and Ben Welch, who bought me a nice Stone IPA.
Maybe
Ooh,
they
And
don't understand how the sponsorship works. They're supposed to buy us all IPAs.
I've got a Stone Delicious IPA.
I have a
Okay.
I have a
It-
Guinness in wine. Like, I'm toothpasting it here.
Okay, they may have bought it because we're watching their dog right now, but I also know they've watched our episodes in the past, so I figured a little shout out.
That's
Oh,
nice.
hi.
Nice to have sponsorship every now and then.
They've watched the episodes and they'll still talk to you. That's real friendship.
Yeah,
They still
especially-
trust you with
especially
their
because
dog?
I've been known to say some stupid stuff. Yeah.
You've been known to say nothing for an entire episode.
This is
That
true.
is true.
you said, yes, I'm trying something new tonight, and then it was silence for 57 minutes.
We have
Oh,
the infamous,
that's probably the best episode we ever had.
I'll say we had the infamous pot episode where he was fighting to stay awake the whole show.
I think that's the one he was talking about.
Yep,
Speaking of-
yep. The
Speaking
pen.
of sponsors, we'd like to thank our Patreons, and furthermore, look what I got! Look what I got! Look what I got! Look what I got!
Oh,
If you are
for
one
the
of our-
listeners, he's holding up the PHP Ugly
Lanyard.
Patreon keychain lanyard.
technically, it's not the Patreon keychain. I just accidentally said it was, and now we're giving one to everybody. I went back and I went back to Patreon to get everybody's address to send them their keychain, and I looked at our reward levels. I'm like, huh, we only said we're sending them stickers. So,
Yeah, we didn't send those though either.
I got a whole bunch of them here. If you're one of our Patreons that are expecting a reward level, and you do not have your address in Patreon, please go there. You should have a message from me asking you for your address. I can't send you your Patreon reward unless I know where to send it. I tried this before, didn't work out. So
Cost us a lot in
yes.
shipping, but we got them all back.
Got 'em. Great. That's
Oh,
that.
how's your week been?
Mine has been fairly productive. I can't complain too much. Been struggling with Docker in production. This is where I've kind of used a lot of my authority in the past, where I've pushed this off to other people to manage, and we have a new client that we have in a different environment, and I'm trying to shield our other ops people from this new environment as much as possible. So I decided to tackle this deployment of Docker, and oh, what a not a nightmare. It's just a learning curve. I mean, I use Docker locally a lot, and didn't think I was getting into too much trouble with it in production. But yeah, I'm learning a few things. One thing is, it can take up a lot of disk space if you're not careful. We figured that out. What was that, today or yesterday, John?
That was today, but it still makes absolutely no sense. The app is so small. There is no real usage on it other than the client maybe testing it.
Mhm.
And somehow it grew to use the full 80 gigs available on the server.
I've seen that too.
Well, it was really weird. John and I were on there troubleshooting it. I couldn't find where all this disk space was being used, and John's like, "Well, this, I forget what it was, but it's one thing was going to free up like 5 gig, and it was something with the Docker.
Well, that was through a Docker command. It said you could reclaim 5 gig.
reclaim. That's it. You can
I
reclaim 5 gig.
easily found the files. They were in varlib doc.
Mhm.
Although it did say there were 2 files each using 80 gigs, but the entire. I never looked to see if they're similar. I don't think they were.
Maybe that's what the problem was. Maybe it was the assembly.
Maybe.
Anyways, John's like, well, if we run this command, we can reclaim 5 gig. I'm like, all right, run the command because at least that will give us a little breathing room. Although by this time I had already doubled the disk space, so we basically doubled the price of the server. But I'm like, yeah, go ahead and run that command. Let's at least free up that 5 gig. And he runs the command and like frees up 70 gig. I'm like, what did you do? I ran the command. It's not how it should work.
A little copy paste from Stack Overflow. It worked perfectly.
Stack Overflow.
To be fair,
team is
I
Stack Overflow.
Yeah, I thought it would clear up more than the 5 gigs. I don't know what that reclaim space. But whatever. We got through it. Now we're just gonna monitor over the next couple of days, see why it's growing the way it was.
But yeah, besides that, been pretty productive coding from a coding perspective. I just brought down our local user group's website right before the show. I told John, I'm like, hey, yeah, SDPHP is down, and yeah, I'm leaving for Arizona, so I'll either fix it on Monday or maybe you can fix it for me. John didn't reply. I'm used to that.
On your Thursday night, I have my kids. I put them to bed. I get here for the show. When was I going to reply to you? I was too busy out at the park flying an airplane. That's the new thing. RC airplanes with the kids.
Is it still flying? I'm surprised.
I'm jealous. I want to go to the park and fly an airplane with you.
Sure, come on over. What do you mean? Is it still flying? Of course, it's still flying. A little $40 airplane that my son got for his birthday. That we've only gotten stuck in the tree 10 times.
See, that's
I found out I'm
about.
really good at climbing trees again.
Oh, nice.
I mean, your kids are small enough. You can just pretty much throw them up there.
I've done that too. So
Good man.
There's been a couple trees where I've been able to hoist Grayson up, and there's enough, almost like a netting of branches where I feel comfortable with him being up there. And he's gained so much confidence in climbing trees that I put him up in one recently, and he keeps going higher. I'm like, great, you need to grab onto the bigger branches. And he's grabbing on these little flimsy things, and I'm like down on the ground, like, what are you doing? Stop! You don't go any higher.
So this is what happens when you go vegan. You start putting too much trust in plants. It's just gonna reach out and catch him.
There you go. That worked.
How's your week been, John? Or were you not done, Eric?
No, I was actually going the same direction you were.
Yeah, let's hear it, John.
My week's been mostly good outside of I'm terrible at following scope, and I'll get stuff working but miss stupid things, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. It's frustrating when you turn something in, you're like, it works, and it's like, yeah, if you do exactly the steps that I intend you to do, it works. But putting in that mental power beyond those steps, like, oh well, what about doing it this way? Or maybe the delete button should work as well when you're not really thinking about the delete button. So it's just frustrating when I'm not catching those things prior to it being. So that's some frustrating crap. On top of that, this morning I was on a whole conversation. There's an application we have in Salesforce. Trying to figure out where to put this card. And all of a sudden it stopped working. It was because there's an iframe on Salesforce that loads in some of the details from phone burn. Trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And turns out Chrome made a change, and they made people aware of it October of last year. I should probably subscribe to the change log or some sort of update from Chrome as the browser updates, especially since so many people auto update with it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a setting on cookies where you can say you want the same site to be strict, lax, or none. And by default, it's just not set. And Chrome back last year was like, yeah, too many sites aren't setting some sort of option. They're not setting it to anything. And by default, browsers were assuming none, but they didn't like that. So now they assume strict unless you choose none.
Let me see if I can share my. Does this work? Nope. Trying to,
That
there we
feels
go.
like that feels like that should be a client side option, not up to the website.
So this is for third-party cookies. So
Yeah.
that needs to be on our site. So on FoamBurner, they should be choosing whether, if their site is loaded into an iframe, should cookies be allowed to flow. And that's basically what this is. But because most sites weren't setting anything, Chrome said, we're not going to assume none. The assumption should be strict unless otherwise. So it took a little finagling to figure out, but then the settings, the way the sites explain what the settings mean was very confusing on why it wasn't working. If you do same site lack, it's supposed to work for GET requests, and all of the requests were GET, but it still wasn't working. As soon as we changed it to the same site done, it worked fine. The Chrome was still blocking, and I'm still flabbergasted. Still not sure what's happening and why.
I don't like Ecamm. I want to go back to OBS. I can't figure out our delay issue with OBS.
Well, I will
Maybe-
be taking a look at that.
Is that
Uh,
gonna be your job this weekend?
that is one of my jobs this weekend. I've got all my setup stuff ready to go, so hopefully should be easy to just drop in and be using OBS again on a desktop, not a power saving attempt at a laptop.
You know what? You say that, and I almost pulled the trigger on a System 76, one of those little cube desktops. The one that comes with, they have one that comes with the GPU. I'm like, I bet you I could get that, and I bet you OBS would just run fine. I am looking for excuses to buy a System
I
76 machine.
I know. The Meerkat.
Yeah, I forget, what is that, the small cube one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small but fierce.
And the, not the low end, but the next size up has a graphic card in it. Not a graphic card, a GPU in it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's weird. When I click on the mini on the website, and then I say design and buy, it takes me to the desktop version, which I don't know why it's doing that, but I figured I had to get there once before. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't need to spend any more money. I've spent enough money lately. So, what am I gonna do? But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty
Complain
sure.
about OBS not running on your laptop.
Hmm?
Said you'll continue to complain about OBS not running on your laptop.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there you go. Not the short, the tall. That's what it was. Go to the tall. What was that?
No.
What did you break, John?
So before the show, I went to pour a beer. My tap got stuck, so it just overflowed the cup. So I just let it sit there. I put the tap up on my printer, and somehow it decided to just fall or jump. It's like, I got to get out of here, and it jumped off the printer.
Looks like I lied to you. I guess it doesn't come with a GPU. I came up with one configuration one like low end configuration that had a GPU in it. Maybe it was the new desktop. I don't
The
know.
Thelio.
The Thelios, yeah. Yeah, the Thelio, the middle one has a GPU.
The smallest one does.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been what I looked at. The smallest Thelio then.
Well, I've been working on a project that is 90% being developed by a third party, and the back end and PHP side is being developed by me. That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that rough? That's the way not the way it should be, but it's nice when you have that separation where as long as you two are agreeing on what's being passed and received.
Yeah, we're not. There's
Well-
like almost zero communication. Basically, I'm getting his application and trying to make it work.
But if you're
Which-
doing the, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but if you're doing the back end, I assume you're doing the logic. Does that mean they're just doing the front?
I'm doing the storage and the management.
Oh, so
He's
they're doing logic as well.
It's not even logic, it's a 3D application. It's like a game designer thing. So it's a heck of an undertaking. And I got it working relatively well now. I'm pretty happy with it. But one of the big changes we're going to is Minio storage.
Well, Minio is just for development. Minio, well, it's made for development. It's made to simulate either S3 or Spaces for DigitalOcean, but you don't really use it in production because it's just storing it locally. So it doesn't.
Well, there's a whole thing here about how to use it for production, and we're using it to, I believe, replace some of our storage through S3.
What's the objective there? Why? I mean, why? I guess. What do
Let me
you trying
write-
to do?
Hold on, let me write that down so I know to ask tomorrow.
Asshole. Done working with you guys.
No, I honestly hadn't asked. I was told we're going this direction. I don't know if it is just for development now that you
Are you
mentioned.
running it on a separate server? Maybe? Are you doing that?
That's possible. I mean, they have a guide for running it using Docker Swarm, which is multiple servers, multiple instances.
But it's basically your storage. You don't. Please tell me they're not putting it on the front end and on the back end it's just S3 because.
No,
Okay,
no, I
good.
think this would be an attempt, if I'm guessing correctly, which I might not be, that to build our own CDN.
I mean, I guess it could be useful. I just don't know. With as cheap as S3 and DigitalOcean Spaces are, why?
You say that. No, you say that. But we're serving lots of content.
Yeah, but you'd still be serving. Now you're just responsible for the hardware and the bandwidth serving that content.
I don't know what to tell you. I know that there's a guy whose job is to cut costs where he can, and could be something under his purview.
Oh, good luck with that. I love S3. Well, we use both S3 and Spaces in DigitalOcean, and I love it. I mean, you can
Spaces uses the S3 basically API, right? Kind of a clone within DigitalOcean.
Yeah, and Minio does the same thing. It's totally API compatible.
Right, 100% API compatible with the S3 standard client, including S3 itself. So, yeah, I mean, and you can do this in Minio as well. You can create temporary URLs that expire. So you can say, okay, serve up this image, but this URL expires in 30 seconds, 30 minutes, 30 days, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's great. I just don't know why you'd want to take
I'm more curious.
When I find out, I'll let you know.
Which one?
Me or Eric?
Eric. He all of a sudden he's like so knowledgeable in Minio. I'm like, when did you learn about Minio, and what have you done with it?
Well, we're
I've
using
never
it.
heard of it.
Yeah, we're using it on a couple clients. The yeah, the
Okay.
the log group client is, I mean, the development team is using it. We have it
No,
as
I
one of the
I
backup.
know.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's fun. It's cool. It's out there. It's one of those things.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you want to simulate
Question marks.
during development, if you want to simulate an S3 storage container or storage solution, that's how you do it. You just spin up a little Minio. It doesn't even have to be a Docker container. I think you can even install Minio through Brew on Mac, and it
Yeah, I have it in
absolutely.
my Vagrant image now.
Yeah, so it's like you just install it and you just write your code, and like in Laravel, it's really sweet. You just tell it, okay, this is our cloud driver. Use the Minio driver or use the S3 driver, and everything just works.
Yeah, honestly, if all we use it for is development, it's going to be much better than what we were doing, which was having a sandbox bucket.
Oh, John,
So,
I implemented it on Argus. So Argus, we moved all the avatars to S3. So I had the development team use a Minio and Docker so that they could do their development.
Well, I need this now because I have basically a whole storage piece within the code base,
Mm-hmm.
and my tests are using local. So, I mean, it's probably fine. It's just using a local driver versus the AWS driver, but it's not simulating AWS at that point. So maybe
Right.
this would be
Yeah,
a
this is
better approach.
yeah.
exactly what you want. Yeah.
You're
And
listening to PHP Ugly, where John gets his news about what's going on at DiegoDev.
and the products we've launched. Speaking of the products we've launched, Argus.to is out there. We're dog fooding it now. We have some clients on it. It's being used. We're getting a lot of great feedback. We're iterating on a few things. We found a couple bugs, but we do have a wait list out there now. If you're listening and you need a cron job monitoring solution, uh, and you're interested, throw your email in there. I might even reach out to you to see if you want to be an early beta tester, because we're just trying to get more jobs on the server so that these bugs start to surface a little faster.
I
Yeah.
don't,
Um,
So the
I
the
don't
whole
like that
point
hero
around
banner.
the whole purpose of this is we had clients that the cron jobs, especially around billing, are their lifeline to income. Trying to put monitoring within the application itself doesn't make sense, because now that's already your single point of failure. So the way Argus is meant to run is you tell it how often it should run. If we don't hear from your application within that time, so if it's supposed to run daily, tomorrow, if we haven't heard, hey, we're starting today's billing run, we can let you know, hey, there might be a problem. The nice part about it is you're hoping that it's false positive. You get alerted. You're hoping there might be a problem. Let me go look. Maybe there's, versus not hearing anything and then there really being a problem.
and you just assume everything's running fine. And the one client we have is, I don't want to say a game changer for them because I think that word gets overutilized, but they're really happy to have that visibility now. To John's point, there's one particular
Well,
job that's just like the cornerstone of their business, and that job has gone weeks without running before anybody figured out the fact that it wasn't running. But there's 2 days out of the month that are like critical that it must run, and now that now that they're getting this daily, and we actually implemented a feature they requested because uh, Argus originally was set up to only send out notifications on failure. So if you can have it alert you that a job didn't start, you can have it alert you that a job didn't finish if you have it set up to monitor that. And he was like, "I'd really like a notification that the job started." I'm like, "You want a notification that it successfully ran? Like you're gonna get a notification every day?" He's like, "Yeah, no, that's what I want." So I'm like, okay, we can make that happen, and we implemented that feature. So yeah.
Well, the weird part is the job itself already emails at the end of it, but it's one of those, you have to be so aware that you didn't receive something to know there's a problem versus getting something saying, hey, there might be a
So
so
Can I say one thing about it?
sure.
The
Depends what you can say.
the logo. Well, I said already that I'm not a huge fan of the hero banner, but I was looking at the logo in the top left,
mhm.
and it looks a little funny to me.
How's that?
It says Argus Cron Monitor, and it's got a bit of aliasing on it. And by a bit of aliasing, I mean you have the HTML element sized to width 200, but the image that it's linking is 3012 by 792.
So it's a nice sharp image. I don't understand what the problem is.
Well, it turns out that the web browser is not great at scaling images that much.
Mine looks
So
fine.
your text gets a little hard to read.
I don't see what you see, but okay. I'll take a look at that. That's a fair criticism. I appreciate it.
Now, I will say you can zoom in really, really close to the image, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
That's cool. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Side note, Thomas, are you hearing John clip? Is he clipping for you?
Yes, he clips when he starts talking.
Okay.
Well, then I should just stop talking. I'm fine with that.
Actually, you know what I think it is? I think he clips when someone else is talking or when someone else's mic picks up. I think it's a Skype thing.
Well, that's the first time I've seen him clip like that.
Oh, I've heard it a ton.
I mean, we have new hardware. That's why I bring it up. We're still dialing everything in, so hopefully
All right.
everybody's
Well,
down.
is that any better?
I mean, you're not clipping, so it's
Yeah,
hard-
you're
it's
not.
hard to-
Yeah,
Okay. You don't want me to talk too much. That would be bad.
that's true.
It's
So we'll
already
just
ahead of
assume
them.
we'll assume it's fixed.
Okay. Let's just go with that. It's fixed.
I found an interesting project this week.
Oh, cool. Well, first thing, you bailed on me this past weekend. I thought we were going to do some Vim online stuff.
You didn't call, and I slept in till like 3.
Well, I'm not doing it this weekend. I'm heading out to Arizona, so it's gonna
Ah.
happen this weekend. I'm gonna do
Well,
I'm gonna do some Vim stuff. I'm gonna do some live coding. I've been wanting to do that.
I have 2 weeks of vacation coming up, so I'll be available all the time. Because my idea of vacation is just not having to go to work.
But you're still home. You're not going anywhere.
No,
Awesome.
I'll probably be like doing some woodworking projects. We'll see how that works out.
Building furniture.
Gonna start with a workbench for the garage, and then
You gotta have a workbench to build things. So
Yep.
there you go.
That's the one thing I missed doing. I just redid my garage, and I put up all sorts of tool stuff on the walls to hold all my tools, but I don't have a workbench.
Well, if you've got a table saw, then you can make one.
Yeah.
I have a circular saw, not a table saw. I need a table saw for a circular saw. I need a table saw. I need a workbench for a table saw.
It's having a stroke here.
I need a saw to saw stuff to make a saw holder to saw more stuff.
Yes. That's always my issue with the YouTube channels that I'm watching. They're always like, hey, this came out a millimeter too thick, so we're going to run it over to the planer. And then back onto the cutting
Everybody
table.
has one of these, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Back on the cutting table where we're going to line it up with my custom jig that I made just for making drawers, and just zip, and you're done. Like, cool.
Easy peasy.
Seems really easy if you've been doing it for 30 years.
I've got French doors that lead into the room here that,
Ooh la la.
well, the problem is they stick. So I have to hold one of them closed in order to open the doors. And I know it's because it's that millimeter too thick. I'm like, I just need to plane off just a tiny bit off this door. One, too lazy to take the door
Yeah.
down. Don't have the right tools to do it properly. So I would end up either trying to do it with a circular saw, which was stupid, or try and use a hand planer, which I would screw up, and all of a sudden the edge would be all sorts of wavy. So instead, I just deal with it because I'm the only one that comes into this room. It's almost kind of nice because the kids can't open the door from the other side.
See, I have this like general fear of any kind of subtractive manufacturing that I'm trying to get over. Like just putting a nail in a wall to me is very hair raising. I'm like, I have to freak out over it for a little while before I get myself up to doing it.
It's drywall. It patches easily.
I know.
You could put 50 holes right in a row trying to find a stud. It works.
I also have a lot of drywall holes to patch.
It's just so little. You can actually use toothpaste if you're really in a pinch. I mean, that's how easily it patches.
Well, last
and
weekend.
by the way, if you're just
And it
joining
smells
us,
good.
You're listening to Woodworking Ugly. This is a weekly podcast brought to you by three people who don't know anything about woodworking.
So not very different than the original podcast.
We
No,
decided
I got a jigsaw. Got a jigsaw and a little indoor pet door for my cats. So my office has a cat door in it now, and I actually buckled down and did it. Very proud of myself for doing that.
Good job.
Yeah. Took like 5 minutes. Now I have to put up the shelves that I bought 6 months ago.
All right. I'm going to move us on, but not to PHP stuff. I'm going to move on to a I'm going to move on to a complaint / I have more information as of yesterday anyway, because I had this on last week's show notes, but we never got to it. I have an Android application that I maintain. For push notifications, we've been using pushbots. I finally get back into the application recently to implement, the whole, hey, are you enjoying our application? Please leave us a review nonsense. Mm-hmm. While I'm in there, I'm like, oh, look, I also have to update this, which led to I have to update that, which led to I have to update pushbots for notifications. Upon further review, I find out this has probably not been working since sometime last year because they moved from Google Cloud Messenger to Firebase Cloud Messenger. I'm having trouble updating the library. Try contacting their help line through pushbots that help. They have the live help, and I noticed nobody's seen my message. To the point where 2 days later, I still don't have a response. I call their customer service number, and it's like a generic voicemail. It's not like, hey, you've reached pushbots, leave us a message, and we'll get back to you. So that's when I put this card up here to talk about last week, how I don't understand how their customer service works. Finally get a response. It turns out I used a different email address from the account on the help site. Because why do you have two different domains? I don't know. So because I'm on a different domain, I guess when I went to start a help session, I put in a different email address. Because they weren't linked, it wasn't a paid account, became low priority in their queue.
They just kicked you to the side.
Yeah, when they finally got back to me, they're like, oh, if you would have used this email address, we would have known you were a paying customer. And it's like, don't admit that to me. That just frustrates me.
Well, I have a similar problem, but I mean, so at some point in time, I tried to convert or I tried to include the DiegoDev business on my PayPal account. I don't know why had I done that. Maybe we were building something at the time. I don't know. But at some point I tried to validate DiegoDev as my business on PayPal. So for whatever reason, I ended up in this weird loop where it kept saying it was validated, and then I'd go to the home page, and it would say, "Hey, click this link to finish validating your business." I'd click it, it would say, "Thank you, you're all validated, we appreciate it," and this just kept going on. So eventually, I just got tired of it. I just closed it out. This had to have been years ago because I have totally forgotten about it. And I use PayPal pretty regularly. I put money in. I pay things through PayPal. So I've been using it now for this time that has lapsed. Like I said, a year or 2 years, 3 years, however long it's been. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't add money to my account anymore. And you talk about a nightmare scenario to get in touch with support. PayPal support is horrible, absolutely horrible. And I
Did you try tweeting at Elon Musk? He's very responsive.
He's one of the original PayPal founders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Maybe I should have done that. Maybe that's where I went wrong. I'm sure Elon would have jumped right on that. But
Doesn't
yeah,
seem like he's got much else to do.
They eventually get back to me saying, "Oh yeah, you never validated your business." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Because by this time I had totally forgotten about it. I'm like, "What are you What business?" And they're like, it looks like you run a business called DiegoDev." I'm like, "What? No." and we had to jump through all, and they wanted physical like paperwork. Like you have to show us these these papers for us to approve your business. I'm like, you don't have to approve my business. I don't. We've already set up another PayPal account for the business. I'm not even worried about it. And the guy is like, well, at this point, it's actually easier to approve your business than to turn you back to a regular client. Can you just give us the papers? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
It was easier for them. For you, you had to contact me. I had to go through all of our files, send them over to you.
It was crazy, man. But so now I have DiegoDev on my PayPal account apparently, but yeah, your customer service story was just so. Here I am. As far as they know, I'm a business, which I am a business. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm a business trying to do business through PayPal, and this was probably a 2-week process of messages. When I finally got to their messaging board, where I could actually talk to people, it was probably a 2-week process of messages going back and forth. Well, try this, do this, go here, do that. I'm like, you guys are idiots. It was frustrating.
Yeah, but at least, unlike open source, you eventually get someone who can support you. That damn open source, you're just stuck forever. It's not like there's any systems for actually supporting Stack Overflow and every minor question you could possibly ever have.
All right, I'm done. Has that been an hour yet? I feel like it's been an hour.
I've got stuff.
You do have stuff.
So what are you talking about?
So I ran across this interesting project that allows users to authenticate in Laravel, with biometric data.
Oh, I saw this. Yeah.
And I was immediately struck by like, hey, this seems like a terrible idea. Like you send biometric data across the web. Like how does you would have to incorporate a server and client side key sharing and then encrypt it for it to be in any way secure. And what kind of browser would support doing that easily? And turns out, yeah, no, I was 100% right. That's what you have to do. But it also turns out that that's been implemented in all the major browsers, and specifically, specifically the mobile browsers all support it. So it is just like a drop-in thing where you ask somebody for their fingerprint and they give it to you, and it's totally secure.
Hey, have you looked at the package? Did you play with it?
No, I don't have an impetus to do it. I'm going to bring it up to my higher ups and see what they think of it.
Everything I haven't seen this package specifically, but everything I've seen around biometric acceptance has been basically they store your credentials locally, you say, yes, I want to send it, and you're just resending your actual credentials. You're telling me they're actually sending your fingerprint data to websites?
You're sending a valid signed certificate
Right. You're not
that your
putting
local machine is saying, I've signed your request for a fingerprint with my fingerprint. Here's the response. If it matches the original, then it's the same as OAuth 2 or what have you.
Mhm.
So you're not getting the data. That's why it needs browser support, is because the browser is doing a lot of the overhead for that. So what you do is you create a WebAuthn, which is the protocol that everything here is using. You create a WebAuthn credentials table and tie it to your users, and now you have a way of doing essentially two-factor using biometrics.
Yeah.
So it's pretty.
I've heard of WebAuthn,
cool.
so I guess that makes more sense.
I was ready to check this package out and flame more the guy on Reddit, but it turns out no, it's all right.
He's making it easy to implement that within a Laravel application, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, he's tying it to the Laravel authentication stuff. So, pretty cool. There's also been boy amount of stuff going on with PHP 8.
Oh, fun stuff, good stuff. What?
I am so excited. I don't know how there's still stuff getting added in, because I thought we were at a feature freeze. But I guess this stuff was earlier this month, right before the feature freeze. So the first big one, very, very backward compatibility breaking, is Saner string to number comparisons. So 0 = foo no longer evaluates to true.
Okay.
Which is good.
It's important to note that this is, I'm pretty sure, number first, string second. I think if you put the string first and the number second, it does something different. It evaluates it to string. Either way, this fixes a lot of sanity issues in PHP. Gets it out of that realm of JavaScript. And that's going to be nice, but it might bring up some unexpected problems if you're expecting that behavior.
Yeah, it's a lot of legacy applications that don't do really good type hinting could have issues here.
Yeah. One that I'm very curious about is a new null safe operator. So normally we have the user object points to address, object points to address line 1. Now you can question mark point to, and it will not throw a error on null object error.
See, I was doing that with the null coalescing.
This one is chainable. With null coalescing, you have to give it an alternative. Like if there's no object, then give it this. This is just chainable and will return null at the end of the chain if it hits null at some point. I hate it. This is like reintroducing the ampersand or the at to suppress errors.
Yes and no. The reason I don't hate it so much is I've got a lot of those objects where you could be doing something that returns false instead of an object because it's a legacy. Now that we have much better type hinting, especially return types, we're trying to be so much better about not doing that. You either return a specific object or throw an exception. But there's so much legacy code where it's, hey, if you don't have it, return false, and you're expecting the outside code to evaluate it. But when you're chaining, you're not doing that. You're like, yeah, just I'm assuming this is going to work throughout this entire chain.
I guess I'm just afraid of junior developers using it everywhere instead of a regular expectation of the object being correct.
I agree. If you are doing good type hinting, good return types, this should not be necessary at all.
Right. And it's going to hide errors from you. If you end up somewhere in line 300 with a null reference error, that error could go all the way up to line 2, and you just wouldn't know.
If you were using the question mark arrow and not checking for null afterwards, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. It seems like it's too easy of a badly abused.
I don't fully hate it for the reasons I mentioned. I think it will, although if you have legacy applications and now you're putting this in there, maybe you should just fix the application itself. But that being said, maybe that's not the right approach.
Yeah. Next up, I'm very excited about. It's a paradigm shift for PHP, fundamentally. Turns it into what I consider a completely different language if you use it. Named arguments.
Yeah, this wasn't new. This has been part of this was approved a while ago, I thought.
I think it just got done voting in April. August.
No, we've talked about it on the show before.
Voting opened 7/10/2020.
Yeah.
So
I know we have talked about it on the show at least once.
So it got approved a month ago. And it's going to be in 8. It's going to be interesting to see. They did apply it to all of the built-in or many of the built-in methods. So the ones that were seemingly in the incorrect order can now be in the order that you want them in if you name them.
I like it, especially in the methods where you just pass in numbers. It's like, what do the numbers represent? Or if you're not passing in variables already, where your variables are named the proper thing. I hate getting to some sort of method call and having just random things and not knowing what they represent. PHP Storm makes that a lot better for me. PHP Storm shows me the variable or the variable names of the method I'm calling. So maybe this is less necessary now, but not everybody uses an IDE. So
yeah, it's going to be nice. I like it. And adding it in doesn't mean you have to use it. Mm-hmm. So if you're using a library that has it all added in and everything, doesn't mean you have to use it. You can still use the order.
The order that the method is declared in.
Yes. And then there is the constant struggle with the attribute syntax. Attributes got approved for PHP 8 and will be in it. We just don't know what the syntax is for it yet because everyone hates everyone else's ideas. And it's
I thought
all
they settled.
No, it's all that they talk about on internals right now.
Really?
There are, I think, 6 proposals.
I thought the AT-AT was finally accepted. They're still going back and forth on it?
AT-AT is what's in the attribute syntax RFC, the original that got approved. But changing it is now several different RFCs. There's AT-AT, there's hash square bracket, at square bracket.
Do you know what the argument is against the AT-AT?
It's ugly. It's not used by any other languages. Breaks backward compatibility of PHP 7 code.
So some of these other ones are used by other languages.
Yes.
I'm not calling you out. You don't have to know that.
No, I've got the table of positives and negatives in front of me here.
And there's actually a row that says used by other language. Add is not.
Add is not. Hash square brackets is, and less than greater than is.
See, I think that one's ugly.
Me too.
Yeah,
The interesting thing is that that one does not break backwards compatibility of PHP 7. So if you write something in compatibility for 7 and 8, then that bracket change wouldn't break anything. The compiler would see that as a comment.
It's funny to see how the voting is like just through each iteration, how the voting is like slowly changing.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that that's seen as a comment. The less than, greater than. I would not have known that was a comment syntax.
I wouldn't either.
The overwhelming winner right now for first preference is hashtag or pound square bracket, which is not backwards compatible.
Wasn't the pound sign a comment for a while in PHP?
It still is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah. A pound sign is a single line comment.
Yeah, so that's the issue, is that these attributes can be multi-line. So it is such a huge mess.
I hate the idea of having the trailing delimiter. I don't know why. It just bugs me.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I agree. I'm still like
anyway.
I'm still like, I mean, the pound bracket is okay, I guess. There's the weirdness of, not only in PHP but many other comments, a pound symbol is many other languages, a pound symbol is a comment. So that throws me off a little bit, but I guess I'm okay with it. I still like to add. I don't know why.
Based on this table, I like @ just because it doesn't break PHP 7 code.
Oh, I think you can see that one. @
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that one.
Anyway.
Yeah, I prefer @ as well, and the voting seems to like that as not. Let's say no one likes that.
I say in round 5, a lot of people liked it, but then it went away again.
Yeah, I only like it because of that issue or that specific thing, but I don't write code that I'm going to need both 8 and 7 to work. It's either going to work and we're going to upgrade to 8 and use it, or we're not.
And we're only going to have 7 for a year.
All right, I want to try to fit one more topic in here. If you guys, are you done, Thomas?
The one last one I saw, which I didn't add a card for here, is that the namespace is now going to be treated as a single token. It won't be broken up into a token / token / token /. The only impact of this is that you can have a directory named things that are reserved keywords now. So your namespaces can have app / class or app / function / and then that's a valid namespace now, because that token won't bump with an existing function token. So it's an internal change.
I didn't realize you couldn't have class in your namespace, but then again, I've never tried.
You can't have class as the full name of a directory in your namespace. But now you can.
Well,
so that's it.
Everything.
or absolutely nothing.
It
absolutely nothing.
changes nothing, but it allows for a slightly nicer directory structuring for people who want to have reserved keywords in their namespaces for some reason.
So a little tech break now. We're running a little long, so I want to be quick about this. John brought up something this morning. I'm like, oh man, I have some opinions of this, but let's save it for the show. And
Yeah.
and within the within the 8 hours we had this conversation, or maybe 12 hours now, they got I think they got a reprieve. But John was asking about the thought of Lyft and Uber shutting down in California. And if you're not familiar with what's going on, California passed a law that basically said that made it hard to have contractors. It said, listen, if the people working for you are working in your industry for your company, they have to be employees. And as a result, at DiegoDev, we hired all of our contractors. Well, most of our contractors. We have a couple who are out of country, and that got too complicated. So there's actually still contracting, but all the
They're dead now.
Yeah, all the U.S. based developers are now employees of DiegoDev. This, I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. This was an undertaking for us as far as it cost us, and it's costing us a lot more money than it did previously to have these now employees. But if I assume everybody understands the difference between an employee and a contractor. A contractor is basically responsible for all the money, all their taxes, all their health insurance and everything. As an employee, we have to pay employee taxes, employer taxes. We have to report that stuff. We have to offer insurance, all this other stuff. So this all came about because of Uber and Lyft. They were like the primary reason this law was created, and they've been kind of circumventing this law, basically telling the California government, no, we're not doing this. Where we don't see the drivers of Uber and the drivers of Lyft as being employees of our company. Our company is a tech-based company that creates an application that allows people to make money ride-sharing. So the fact that they're making money using our application is on them. They're contractors. They're not employees. This has been going around. Well, that deadline was like today, and as I stated, they got a injunction to basically say, okay, you got more time before you have to comply as we figure all this out. But basically, Uber and Lyft are saying, well, we're not making them employees. We're going to shut down service in California. That's kind of what they're holding over California's head. What is y'all's opinion of this? I'm curious.
I think it would be awesome to have a company that would treat the drivers as employees. I don't know.
But don't
I haven't talked to enough of the drivers, but I think I've heard from both sides of that, where some of them like being contractors in the sense that they are their own boss. Mm-hmm. They can choose when they start, when they stop.
How many hours?
But then there's others, right? I think the people that view it as a part-time job like it. The people that are trying to make it their full-time income, they would prefer to be an employee and have some sort of benefits and be treated well. That's
actually the feedback we got from our developers as well. We probably had a 50-50 split of developers who didn't want to be employees. They liked the freedom of being a contractor. They liked the freedom of saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to work for the next couple of weeks. I'm going away. I'm going on vacation. It doesn't matter, right? They do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. So yeah, I get that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas, do you have any feedback?
This is a really, really sticky one. I want to be clear. I hate Uber, the company.
Okay.
They are known for their bad business practices and ethical issues with the upper management and treatment of developers, and basically like all of the ethics issues you can have, they've had, including accidentally killing someone on a bicycle. So I don't like them, but to a very large extent, I agree. They are providing an opportunity that you can pick up when you see it. They are not requiring you to do it. Your employment is not contingent on doing it. That makes you a contractor. And forcing people into the role of employee when they don't want to be employees isn't the right solution to whatever the problem is. The question is, what problem is California trying to solve? Are they not getting tax collections from the employees? Are they not filing?
But no, there's been lots of. Okay. I was gonna say, no, but there's been lots of walkouts of the contractors, of Uber drivers, where they're like, no, we are employees. We are doing this job. We deserve benefits. But this company is making.
That's a
obviously they're losing money, but
that's a stupid misunderstanding on their part of what they are choosing to do. Because
I'm not disagreeing there.
If I made let's throw woodworking out there. If I was asking for somebody to build me a deck on a website, and I found somebody through that website who built me a deck, is the website responsible for them being an employee of the website? Like, where does that line get drawn? Now, I understand Uber is setting rates. That changes things a bit, but only a little bit, because if there's a mass walkout on Uber, all the rates go up. So if everyone started driving for Lyft because Lyft offers employee benefits, then Lyft gets cheaper, Uber gets more expensive, and the whole thing balances itself out. The big problem to me is that they're taking over for a monopoly that was an employee-based system, and now everyone is peeved by the whole thing, because this was a taxi system. This was a monopoly run by the government based off of taxi coins. So it depends on what problem they're trying to solve.
And you exactly you touched on it. You've touched on several points that I wanted to ask you guys. First off, to your point earlier, John, of you'd rather see them treated better with employee benefits. Isn't that a taxi driver? Aren't taxi drivers employees? Take a taxi then, right? Why don't you? Because there's this gap in technology and whatever.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, if there was something between the two, where there was a company kind of like Uber, where it was easy to get a taxi to your place without having to jump through the hoops, then maybe I would take that. I also think that Uber and Lyft got into the game because they had such cheap rates. They get people hooked on it. They're still losing money. What's it going to take for them to make money?
I can tell you that it's not the cheap rates anymore, though. It's the fact that the guy who's going to take you home is already 1 minute away from where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at the airport, they give taxis preferential treatment. The first line of off-boarding vehicles is taxis. If you're an Uber driver, you have to wait in a different section further away from the gates. So there's already a built-in favoritism towards taxis, and that's why the taxis are still successful there at airports. But if you're at a buddy's house and you need a ride over to your house, or you need a ride to the grocery store, your neighbor is an Uber driver. He'll take you. He's waiting for you.
Or you can wait 45 minutes for a taxi to show up, provided you can, they will service your area.
A disgusting taxi, by the way, that does not give you breath mints for being a customer.
And
I mean,
kind of to
Uber
Thomas's point earlier, the thing that popped in my head, and this might be an oversimplification, but like, to your example, like eBay, do all the big sellers on eBay, do they have to be employees now? Right? It's like, what is the differentiator there? Where's the line drawn that says, okay, this is actually a service that people can use to make money, but they don't have to be employees of the company. I mean, where is that? Where's that line?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is that line depends entirely on what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to collect taxes that drivers aren't paying, then you need to classify Uber as the tax collector for you. You need to change corporate law. If you're trying to ensure the health and well-being of the people working for Uber, then you need to change disclosure and options laws. Make sure that if the person wants to become an employee or works 30 or 40 hours for that company, they get employee benefits like what they did with part-time and full-time work. But if all employees have to be, or if all workers have to be employees, what you've done is unionized something that didn't want to be unionized. And it comes down to the question, why? Why is California doing this? Is it because there's an income problem, or is it because it's a rights problem? But either way, this isn't the correct solution, because they're infringing on people's rights to be contractors, and you're forcing companies to collect taxes for people who are going to have to request it back at the end of the year because they did 4 hours.
I agree. That's always been one of my things. I think part of it is it's less work for them as far as tracking the taxes on who owes them what. Now it's the company's responsibility to report that, and it's less overhead on them as far as health insurance and worrying about universal health insurance for everybody if companies have to offer health insurance to employees. So I think it alleviates a lot of tension from the state on items. Now I'm not saying that they're admitting that's what the issue is, but as a business owner, I feel that's got to be one of the driving factors. Is just alleviating those two kind of. Okay, now they don't have to worry about health insurance, and they don't have to worry so much about taxes because they have these entities now that have to provide the stuff to their employees.
Right. It puts relief on the COBRA healthcare program and collects taxes that they might have to return, but they can still profit from while it's collected. This looks like a benefit for the government of California and a negative for the citizens and the corporations, although I don't really care about corporations at all.
I don't either. My point comes from some of the demonstrations that I've seen where people are demanding, they're saying that they are employees. They are working the hours of an employee. They feel like they're employees.
Yeah,
and want to be treated like one.
They choose to work those hours.
No one chooses to work. That's a double
Uber's
standard.
not going to them and saying, John, you have to do 40 hours this week. You only gave us 30 hours last week, so we need at least 40 or 45 from you this week.
I completely get that. And with our contractors, we wanted 40 hours, but we never said you have to work 40, right? It was more of an agreement like, hey, we had these hours available. If you want to work them, great. If not, we're going to have to bring on additional people. You let us know. Mm-hmm. So we were basically doing the same thing.
You had that flexibility. And you weren't doing the same thing because you were paying somebody, not the customer. If the client gave you all of the money and then you gave it to the customer, that's
that's how it works. Yeah.
No, I'm saying if their paycheck was coming from the clients that you find, then that's contracting. That's the people riding in the back of the person's Uber are the ones paying for the Uber. Mm-hmm. Uber is not paying people. Now it may come out of Uber's account because they're collecting the money.
They're
well, that's the way it's working for us. We don't have, outside of Argus now, we don't have anything that is DiegoDev. We have clients. Clients pay us to build something. We pay people to build that thing.
Yeah, but to Thomas's point, it's not like clients pay per line of code for a contractor as they're writing. right? They
Right.
pay us a fee, and then we pay contractors. Whereas with Uber, the driver of that car is getting money based on how long or how far he's driving the person in the back seat who's paying Uber. There's a direct correlation. That guy doesn't just get a check for the hour it takes him to drive.
Right. If he was a bad employee and didn't drive anybody, he wouldn't get any money.
Right.
Whereas if you have a bad employee who doesn't write a single line of code, he's going to get that week's paycheck, but that'll be his last paycheck. So
I see your point.
there are so many delineating lines. I want to know where California set the line to say Uber has to pay, because Uber could change its business model after there's been an official ruling, could change their business model by 1 inch and sneak past the ruling again. And California is going to have to ratify a new law that addresses that, because there are so many places where the loophole exists that basically what California is trying to do is plug the dike. And every time they move their finger to plug one hole where the money's coming from, Uber can just say, no, we'll do it this way then. We'll make sure that we give them a special form to fill out, and it states that they are this kind of employee that's like an on-demand.
Or they say they just say, hey, as a driver, you can't work more than 10 hours a week.
Right.
You know?
Or no, all of our drivers are paid interns now.
Yeah.
like, it's.
I mean, the thing is I think Uber and Lyft, they were disruptive business models by design, and that is what they did. If you don't agree with it, like when everybody protests Uber for something or Lyft for something for one of their behaviors, I'm fine with. You still have a taxi service. I mean, taxi services are still a thing. If you want to go back to that, then go back to that. I'm surprised that the taxi service is still, even today, are still so far behind. Like, why haven't they stepped it up to make it more like an Uber solution? It's just amazing to me.
If you're a taxi service that wants to update your code, contact DiegoDev. We'll help
we
you.
have ideas.
Here's an interesting way to look at this, and I'm going to use New York City for an example because I have their information in front of me. To drive a taxi in New York City, you had to have what's called a taxi medallion, which is a physical coin that says I am authorized to drive a taxi around New York. And a taxi company might have 20 cabs, but they'll only have 10 of these medallions. And when you get out of your cab, the medallion transfers to a different guy and he starts driving. So these medallions were issued by the state of, or by New York City and sold to the highest bidder so that they could pay for whatever road maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. This was a way of making money for New York City, Chicago, Boston, Cambridge, Philadelphia, San Francisco, all these different cities. In 2013, an auction of one of these medallions was over $1 million. So to drive a cab in New York, you had to pay $1 million. The city could issue new medallions all they wanted to, so they had a way of essentially printing money. If you think about how many cabs are in New York City in movies and TV shows and stuff, each one of those cabs is driving around at the cost of $1 million in 2013. 2014 to 2015, which you'll notice is when Uber kicked in, the value of those medallions dropped 45%. In 2019, 16 medallions were offered at auction, 3 of which sold for $137,000, $136,000, and $138,000. The other 13 had no bidders. That's how much money cities are losing to Uber. So it's a lot of money. And if New York City wanted to make $10 million overnight, they could just issue 10 more taxi tokens.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be totally off base with this, but I thought before Uber and Lyft became a thing, I thought the taxi service even had a system where if you wanted to be your quote unquote own business, you could be an own business and rent taxis from a taxi service and
You didn't rent taxis, you rented the medallion.
rented the medallion. Yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. You
yeah.
didn't rent the medallion. Which, again, that seems slimier than what Uber was doing.
Yep.
Like, pay me money if you want to make money. And by the way, every fare you take, we get a percentage of that as well.
Well, no, Uber's doing a lot worse. You ever notice how all the Uber cars are nice and new? It's because Uber has a leasing program that they run.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
It's Uber is sleazy too. The whole thing is sleazy.
Well, I'm not saying
But yeah,
not. I'm just saying
it disrupted.
taxi service was-
It disrupted the market, and California reacted in what I think is an overbearing and dysfunctional way.
Well, they reacted in a way that impacted so many other businesses and
Yeah.
fields, and oh my goodness, it's crazy. All right, well, we're way over here, so I think we need to wrap it up.
Way over.
I'm tired.
We're pretty far over.
I need to pack a bag and head out to DZ in the morning. So, all right, that's gonna do it. This is episode 202. Thanks for listening. Thanks to our Patreons for your support. Your rewards are coming in the mail. I don't know what I did with the one I have here, but I promise I won't lose them again. I got it. Until next week.
You haven't
I'm
gotten
Eric.
up. How could you lose them? I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
ugly. That's funny.
This
Nobody
is
talked in chat. This was a rough show, guys.
This is a great show.
I thought it was a great show.
Did you?
But yeah,
I'm
nobody-
glad you thought that.
Yeah, nobody was talking on YouTube or within Discord. So it's kind of
Frank-
weird.
Even Frank's not talking.
Maybe we weren't broadcasting. Although YouTube says we
Did
were.
anybody check YouTube?
I did.
I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Get this.
We're still streaming, by the way.
The
Don't
total
stop local though.
the total value of taxi medallions.
It wasn't a yearly cost though. Once you had one, right?
Well, yeah, once you had one, but when the companies went out of business, they sold all their medallions. The taxes on that got charged because the medallion was a physical good being sold.
Oh
John, I'm buying a new desktop.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I was looking at them.
Oh, man. I tell you. And the
This
problem
thing.
is, I get so greedy about, like, RAM and shit and this space. I gotta freaking reel it in, so. Can't get
Look
it
at
under
this.
$5,000 here.
Look at
Who's
this
here?
baby.
Andy!
Well, we just went off the air. Oh no, we didn't.
No, we didn't. We're still broadcasting. Andy, you
Good.
still working with the Oakland A's? I see it. Looks like a big dong. I'm really,
Smells terrible.
I'm really surprised you didn't have it hooked up, man.
I couldn't. This thing, like, it would just go poo and
Hey,
die.
We have these nice arms here, and these mics pull down these nice arms. It's like
Yeah.
you have to
Did
get
you
to the
tighten
range.
Did you tighten it up?
Yeah,
You can tighten them up.
yeah, I tightened it up. It's doing it.
No, I got a desk arm, just one of the stand on the desk things, so that I don't have this visual thing anymore.
I think people like the visual thing. I like trying to get mine in camera. I think people like it.
I want to know how much this thing weighs though, because it's so
What
fucking
did you
heavy.
change in your back, John?
Huh?
What did you change on the back of your mic?
There's just there's little
Battery.
the
Yeah.
little clips. I just made them flat all the way across.
Oh, I need to look at my. I put the where is mine? I put the little back on mine, so it's like.
Oh, yeah, I didn't do that.
I'm too lazy to take it off now.
It says 1.64. That doesn't seem right. It's very.
My buddy was working. He always gets these gigs with baseball. You typically Major League Baseball. And
There's an announcement position open now.
Shush.
what do you mean?
Was it the Reds?
Yeah,
You
the
didn't hear?
Cincinnati announcer got fired yesterday.
Wait, what did I miss?
Or Tuesday.
He used the homophobic slur seconds before what
on a
he
hot
thought
mic.
was being live. He was hot, and then the rest of the game he was announcing normally, but then realizing that he's probably gonna lose his job. He's like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be fired by baseball or the Reds
or people."
This may be the
yeah.
This may be the last time I have these headphones on. What was his name?
Yeah, he said it was. He said that they were playing against one of the effiest towns in the country.
Why even say that?
Yeah.
Man.
So he got fired in the 7th inning stretch. He went off air, like he went off air a couple times for a minute during the show, but then 7th inning he just didn't come back.
Yeah, Tom Brenneman, that was him.
Whoops.
Andy's saying that I'm way low on the stream.
Well, we're gonna deal with that this weekend when I get OBS up and running.
But this is a win. Tom and I knew something about baseball that you didn't know.
That's true.
This is huge. Yeah, that's huge news.
Oh, you guys probably saw the walk-off home run last night, though, right?
No.
Chata? Yeah, the Grand Slam, walk-off Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, yeah, Grand Slam.
It didn't need to be a Grand Slam. They only needed 1 run or 2 runs, but yeah.
They were. It was
many home runs together.
It was 3-2. It was. It was very impressive.
Right.
You guys gonna?
I was gonna make a joke about this being the virtual ugly national convention because the Democratic convention this week, but I didn't get to it.
You guys went on a long time about the RFC or the PHP stuff.
Sorry.
It was great. It was great.
Probably the only thing we do that's relevant to the show.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So there's a developer at PhoneBurner that has a son that's about the same age as Grayson. Went on vacation this week, and then went on vacation yesterday. Right, so today says, "Yep, already on my way home. My 6-year-old broke his arm in 2 places."
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Have you been to the pediatric ward for osteotherapy?
No.
I had to go once.
Knock on something.
I had to take my son in there once, and it is the most horrifying thing you'll ever see. Because it's like toddlers with lower body casts, and you're just like, fucking how? And they're all over the place, and you're just like, God, this place is like a nightmare zone.
Hey Andy, is this any better? Let me know if this is better. We're messing around with new hardware. If you didn't notice earlier, so
it's not your hardware; it's your software levels. It's your restream levels.
Well, that's the problem though. Everything's coming through Skype. Like with Ecamm, I don't have the same control I have in OBS. I can't change levels in Ecamm. Everything comes in through Skype.
Figure it out this weekend or next week. I'll figure it out. I have it mostly set up already.
Yeah. Go back to your question about Rocket League. I don't know that Tom wants to play with me. I've been trying to mess with my controls, and
good call.
And I'm like screwing them all up.
Oh really? You're making it worse?
Yeah, like because my muscle memory I'm trying to change where my power slide is at, and I keep hitting the button over here. It's like no. So
well.
And then I'm trying things that nobody else is really doing. So most people seem to copy what the pros have. And I didn't like that. So then I changed a couple other things, and I'm just screwing it all up.
I'm thinking about changing my air roll, which is a huge change at my level. Like, I don't know what it's going to do to my game, but air roll left and right explicitly are much better than free air roll.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pick one and learn just to roll that direction and not the others, you're like much better off. But
Most people seem air roll left.
Yeah.
So Thomas is gonna make fun of me, John. You won't care, but I feel your pain. I recently changed my Vim leader key from comma to space, and I've been struggling with that. Although I like it now. So you've never switched back to your keyboard, huh?
No, not yet.
Oh, dude, I'm at least as productive as I was on the old keyboard, but now I'm like getting better dialed in and better with I'm so happy I have this keyboard now. Like I've gotten over the hump. There are key combinations that are still killing me, but I've gotten over the hump now so well. It's so nice.
The key combinations that were killing me were crucial for developing, and that's what was killing me.
Which
just even typing an arrow for an object was driving me nuts.
So actually, and it's actually the arrow keys that I screw up on the most. They're the ones I accidentally hit because I go down too far, and the arrow keys are like the last row. So I'm always hitting the arrow keys by mistake. That's still one of the pieces that screws me up so much. But the remappings I did seem to be helping a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
So I switched back to my main keyboard, trying to keep my fingers on the over where they're supposed to be on the home row, because for the longest time my index finger hovered on H instead of J.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why. It was just
I did the same
where it
thing.
ended up.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing that in the hopes that I could switch back to the other one.
Yeah.
Tom, you're supposed to give me some notes on what I should be working on to improve, and you never did.
That's true. I have them.
You are correct.
I have them in my head. The number one is clearing from goal. Mm-hmm. I have a Reddit post that you need to read. But basically what you'll see is when I clear out of the goal, I clear down the center far into the field and not into the wall. So I'll make sure that I hit it so that it goes away from any walls and as far downfield as I can. And if you can't do that, then you need to wait for the ball to position itself so that you can do it. Don't chase for a clear, let them shoot it to you, because they're coming at you from a bad angle already. So let them just put it right in front of your nose. And then when it gets in front of your nose, push it out. So don't leave the goal box. That's the biggest tip I have is when you're goaltending, don't leave the goal box unless you absolutely have to, like they're going to make some shot up in the air. But wait for it to go towards the goal box and then clear it.
Hey guys, I'm stopping the stream. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us.
Thanks
tonight.
everyone.
Appreciate it. Bye, Andy.